everyone, and welcome to today's European SharePoint, Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Laura, and I am delighted to be joined by Matti Paukkonen, who is an MVP and a cloud advisor from Tahto in Finland. And he will present the topic, Teams is a platform for apps. Remember to join in on our conversation about today's webinar and more on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC23. Don't forget to check out the Resource Centre. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars and how-to videos. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the Content tab at the top. Continue your learning with us by joining us for our next webinar called 7 Ways Microsoft Teams Can Improve Your Employee Experience, which takes place later on today, Thursday, the 23rd of March, from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. CET. And you can check out the details on this webinar at sharepointeurope.com/your guide to Microsoft Teams. The ESPC 23 Super Early Bird Sale is now on. You can save €400 with super early bird pricing by joining us in Amsterdam this year from the 27th to the 30th of November for 4 days of learning, networking and inspiration. ESPC 23 brings together members of the Microsoft 365 and Azure community from around the world to share ideas and solutions. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals at ESPC this November. Secure your super early bird tickets today and get ready for 4 incredible days of Microsoft 365 and Azure learning. The European Power Platform Conference program is now available. This June, prepare yourself to deep dive into all things Power Pages, Dataverse, PowerFX, Canvas apps, Fusion Teams, and so much more. With a lineup of exceptional speakers and topics curated by an independent program team, we truly believe this program will provide you with the expertise power ahead in your career and projects. Be sure to visit sharepointeurope.com/conference schedule 2023 EPPC to find out more about the conference schedule. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you might have into the questions window. Questions will then be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will also be recorded and added to the Resource Centre, where you will be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter today, Matti. Hello, Matti.
Hello, Laura. So I'm just going to share my screen. And I think it's now visible.
Yeah, that's perfect. We can see that.
All right, great. So let's jump to today's topic. So what are we going to talk about today on this Teams week is Microsoft Teams as a platform for apps. So I will just give you some ideas with demos about what are apps in Teams, what kind of apps there can be, and what can you do with the apps, how you can bring your custom apps there, what are the app templates. But also the second part is more about managing the apps and how to govern the apps, how to publish the apps. So I will have a lot of demos and some slides of course as well. Okay, and my PowerPoint is just lagging. All right, good. So my name is Matti Paukkonen. I come from Finland. I work as a cloud advisor on a company called Tahto Groups, which is kind of a small company in Finland. We are mostly working with SMB customers and of course non-profits as well. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, been an MVP for 3 years. So I'm active in different communities and also working closely with Microsoft. I'm hosting, for example, upcoming Metaverse One conference, and also we have a Teams Nation conference coming up next year. And if you want to connect me, just, sorry, my pen is just failing me. You can just connect me on LinkedIn. I'm open for networking. And if you have any questions or anything, you can reach reach me out via Twitter or LinkedIn. Those are I think the quickest channels for reaching me about this session or anything around Microsoft ecosystem. But let's jump into today's topic. So I gathered a couple of numbers from the recent Microsoft Work Lab article about how apps are used in the workplace. Well, and regarding to that article, 85% of the employees cited that collaboration tools are really one of the most important part of any digital transformations in companies. So people are really seeing that those collaboration tools are important. Then 64% of people say that those tools are not really integrating the day-to-day processes or functions, and they need to use different systems for accessing, for example, some processes and doing different things, for example, in finance systems or traveling or something. And it's even difficult to collaborate across teams because the processes are relying on different systems. And 85% are really looking for some kind of a centralized platform or portal. This could be an intranet or something like that, where people can collaborate. And when it's coming to the collaboration part, I would say that Teams is one of the key elements here to bringing in a platform where you can start building your processes, start bringing your data and apps and everything. So you have a one view to your tools. And as I can say that Teams is an extensible platform and kind of it has different layers. So of course in the center are those users. So users are there. Then the core functionalities that you can start communicating, like having calls, having meetings, having chats, having channel communication. So those are kind of a core elements in Teams. So you can start communicating. Then adding another collaboration layer. So then you're bringing in the Microsoft's tools like Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, planners, Power BI reports, OneNotes. So bringing in those Microsoft tools to the game so you can start collaborating together on your data, on your documents, on your tasks, notes, whatever it is. And the third layer then are the apps which you can bring into Teams and start doing more, bring the processes, for example, bringing your task from Jira or some other apps like Smart Sheets, or if you have Trello, you can bring your Trello task to Teams and have polls with Polly or whatever it is. There are a lot of apps, and I have a couple of demos of those apps, and of course we are going to see that what the app management means. And this is mostly that getting actually more done when you can connect your applications and processes to one UI or one platform. Okay, so then what is there? Microsoft have published around 50 apps, so they will be available. You can count all the Office apps, Dynamics, Azure DevOps, whatever there is. Those are Microsoft provided apps which are automatically available. Actually, I have a small mistake on this slide. Let's type on that one. That is actually 100 plus. So almost 2,000 third-party apps are now available on the app catalog, which people can use if you haven't got any governance on top of those apps. And there is, of course, then the custom apps part where you can start customizing, bringing your own processes, bringing your own employee services, approvals, whatever you need, and it's well stated like unlimited possibilities. So what your organization or your partner can start building to your environment. So, and the opportunities for building those custom apps, of course, Power Platform, using Power BI reports, Power Apps, Power Automate workflows, virtual agents. So that is a kind of a low code, no code way to start customizing Teams. I have one example from the community, how you can use Power Apps, for example, managing your desk reservations. Then Microsoft have provided app templates. So there is around 20-30 app templates available. And I have actually a demo about the Icebreaker app template. Those are fairly simple kind of examples how you can build an app, how you can deploy it. There are examples on Power Platform and also using bots and tabs and those kind of things. And those are free to use. Of course, you need an environment where to push those, for example, Azure or something. But those templates are, there are no licensing or anything. And the best part, you have the source code, you can start building your own solution on top of the app template as well. And then building from scratch, creating bots, tabs, messaging extensions. Microsoft Graph should be always in the game because that is your way to access your data on Microsoft 365. Then the app features. So of course, you have those tabs. So tab is something you are adding to the Teams channel. Mostly it's something that the context is actually that channel or a team, and it's something which you are working on together with your team members. Then different kinds of bots. It can be something that is conversational or something that just provides your notifications. Bot is actually just an API which does some simple tasks. So there is a different level of bots, and I actually have also a bot there, the Icebreaker, on the demos. Then the message extensions. So you can bring something to the conversation bar on chats or on channel discussions. For example, praise is a messaging extension, or you can take that message and create a task out of it, that kind of thing. So you can extend that compose box with some functionality. Then the meeting extensions. So you can bring something to your meeting. For example, poll is a great way to see that you can add polls there. They are working on the side panel and on the top of the meeting window as well. But there is examples like you can start planning, for example, in 3D. That is possible. NVIDIA just published their Omniverse integration to Teams. So you can see, for example, their production environment on a factory in 3D and start looking at the different angles and start planning on top of that. So that is one meeting app as well. Of course, whiteboards, annotations. So there's a lot of ways you can extend the meetings with apps as well. Of course, the apps Power Platform, creating apps to integrating those teams. They are very simple to publish. So you just actually publish an app and then just choose to publish it in Teams. Of course, you can do it in a controlled way as well. So Power Platform really offers easy solutions for that. But I would say that also Power Automate is an app as well. So you can do integrations and bring it to Teams context, for example, through conversations or creating tasks or whatever you need there. Webhooks and connectors, well, those are still there. Basically, you could use those to kind of have a connection between your, for example, CRM and Teams. So you can push something from the CRM to Teams and vice versa using webhooks. Adaptive cards are more like a UI level. So it's kind of a generic UI which you define, and then the application actually is drawing the UI. So you don't need to care about the styling or rounded corners or coloring or themes or anything. That is actually handled on the adaptive card level. And same adaptive card can work in Teams or Outlook or basically any system which supports those adaptive cards. So you can have a same UI defined, and then the actual application will build on the kind of a graphical elements there. And the task modules bring some kind of a functionality on top of Teams UI, and I have a demo about that on the approvals. But again, remember this when you are building something. Microsoft Graph is the way to get to your data, get to your conversation, teams, members, whatever is required. Also, on the app management side, you need to take care of that when you are using the apps. But next up, let's jump to Teams. And look through some demos. Okay, so first demo, and I really like this tool. This is actually doing how you can utilize the features inside Teams, never leaving Teams, is Adobe Acrobat, which you can now publish to your users easily using Teams policies. So I have a PDF here. Come on, Teams. I have this presentation as a PDF, and I just open it, and now it opens up it for me to Adobe Acrobat app. So I can start right away just going through this presentation and so on. Nothing kind of a new and interesting here, because you could do this on a browser as well, and Teams have been opening PDFs on inside of Teams window as well. Of course, you can pop this out, so just right click and pop out, so you can have it on a different window. If you, for example, have more screens, you can drag it to another screen if you want. But when it gets interesting is that I actually have a Adobe subscription, so I can start working on this while I will just close this one. And once I got the Adobe subscription, I can do things which I could do with the subscribed Adobe Acrobat desktop application as well. But for example, combining files. So I can start combining files. I have this presentation here, and well, I want to add another PDF to this presentation, another presentation. So I just click here, and I want it to be after my deck. And right away, it starts looking for PDF files from Teams. So I can get recent files from Microsoft 365. As you can see, there is a presentation from last week in Finnish, but I will pick this presentation PDF now for demo's sake. Of course, I can look from OneDrives, I can look from Teams and channels, I can even bring something from my computer. Okay, let's take a presentation. And it takes a couple of seconds, hopefully not too long. And just combine. And what's now happening, I added two PDFs and merged them together. They are in Teams, and the result is also stored in Teams. So it will be in the same channel I started working on. And if I go to here, I think there is my thank you slide, and my second presentation starts all over again. Of course, there's a lot of other tools, not really focusing on those, but the idea is that I did this inside of Teams window. I didn't go and open any desktop app. I don't have any Adobe Acrobat installed, I think, anymore, because I can do my kind of everything with PDFs inside Teams. Because I'm using Teams, I store my documents in Teams, so I don't need to open the desktop at all. And if we go here and just check the presentations channel, and there it is, combined version of that PDF. So everything happened inside Teams. So this is kind of a first app demo. The next application, I'm actually switching users to my demo friend Antero here, is approvals. And I had a discussion with Microsoft last week, and they said that approvals is the most used Microsoft app in Teams ecosystem, but I don't see it a lot. So this could be something that could be used for having an internal approval processes. So new approval request. So Antero opened this up and do an approval request, and I have this holiday request approval here, and just filling it quickly. Holiday approve. I'm the approver, so it will come to me, and just some dates, and it will be an annual, and I will just send it. So let's see. Hopefully it will show up. This might take some time. Probably when I'm doing the demos, it will take some time. But let's have a look at what will happen on the previously sent request. So now it's actually doing something. But I can go to the approvals app. I will get the notification even, okay, it came through. So I can see that Antero sent me a request for a holiday, and I can right away start looking at the request. Of course, you can have more fields, and it's kind of a forms like editor where you can add those fields and are those required and so on. It required me to add comments, so I will add a comment, approved, and just click approved here. And now Antero will get the notification that, hey, it was approved, and I can have a holiday. So, and I can see all the requests in the approvals app. Another way of using the approvals is, of course, you can use it via Teams. As you can see, Antero already get a final status that, okay, it's approved. And he can see if there is a more approvers who have been approving it and so on, and what are the timestamps and everything. And it can be even saved as a PDF, so you can store it for later. Another way to use approvals is that I have the approval here inside my team. So I just ping in the approvals app, and I want to create a new approval. And I have the order for equipment. And the same kind of things. This is tied to this specific team, so you need to be in this specific team to actually use this approval. So nothing fancy here. Just ordering, of course, Surface Pro. I need a big screen and Jabra headphones, and I'm fine. And the same way, the approval can come to this team or what are actually configured to the approvers. But now, if we see this is an adaptive card. So this is the Antero's view, and I will go to my teams, and again, I'm an approver. I will get the notification, and here is the adaptive card view for me, and it takes a little time. It actually updates, so I can right away approve this. So let's say that, okay, I'm in a good mood, so it's approved, and I can right away update this approval inside of this adaptive card. And this is the function of the adaptive cards, that it will change based on the status and what functions are available for the user. So as you can see, now it's approved. I can see the details here, but on the Antero side again, also Antero will see this adaptive card as updated. So this is the way to make kind of a updating UIs, for example, for channels or those. So adaptive cards is the way to go there. Next one, let's go to the Power Platform. So I have been just adding a small Power Platform application for desk booking as a tab for this ESPC Teams Week team. So I have been pre-adding this. This is simple to add as well. Just click plus here when you have published it and just find the desk booking, and it's just fairly simple to add. This is a application example made by April Dunham. So fairly easy to set up. You get the Power App, you create 3 SharePoint lists, add permissions there, man, your way to go. Okay, Antero, he doesn't have any bookings. Let's see on my side what I have there. I go to General and Desk Booking, and I already have a couple of desk bookings made here. So simple app deployment. I think if you just how quick you are creating those SharePoint lists. So it takes something like 30-45 minutes, maybe, nothing more. So I can just start booking, for example, a desk for me. Let's see, this is a good time slot for me, and I have already predefined some steps, desks there, which I can just approve. And otherwise, other people can see what are available and those kind of things. So fairly simple, and it's very easy to bring Power Apps to your teams as well. And let's go to the final. So final is the app template. You remember the icebreaker I already mentioned on the previous slides. So I have the icebreaker already in my environment. Let's do it like that. It will actually notify me. So I will just have a one click on Azure side. That is not necessary, but it should appear in just a few seconds. Let's just hope that it works. Okay, so all right, it's not right away because it's running on serverless architecture, so it might take some time. But I will get the notification from the icebreaker bot. This is the icebreaker bot. An idea for this bot is just fairly simple, that it will pick someone from your organization and it just matches you together. So it will post me this kind of a card automatically once a week. For example, you can define the schedule and I can just start chatting with Sanni-Kaisa here or propose her a meetup. So fairly simple bot, and this is an app template, and deployment for this, I would say that if you have a Azure subscription, takes something like 1 to 2 hours, and you can have it ready and start using it. Fairly simple app. It will just post you a colleague to meet up with for a get together, or just having a chat, or maybe even introduce to a new colleague. And you can easily configure what team members are actually included in that and certain things. And everything is documented. Source code is available, deployment is available. So it's easy to start with testing like an icebreaker. There's a lot of other app templates to learn as well. Okay, that was about demonstrating apps in Teams. Just to give you some ideas that there are a lot of capabilities, and there are a lot of course, app templates, what we see in just after a couple of slides. So just to give an idea that you can bring those processes, bring those important apps available to your users via Teams. They don't need to learn the URLs or install the applications even. For example, Adobe Acrobat, you don't need to install the app anymore if you're just looking PDFs from Teams. Why? Because why would you open it on the desktop side? You can open it via Teams as well. It works on a browser, Teams version, and desktops and everything. But we're halfway through, so I would say that half of this is then the app governance in Teams. And why you should take care of this, I have in a couple of slides, but first slide about it, how many users are just clicking accept for these application permission consents. So this is fairly simple to just click there. And do those users actually read what is happening? So this application can read all information in your mailbox and send some mails as any user. And this is actually app created by me. So I created this, and it took something couple of hours to get it this far. So I can publish an app. Of course, this is an Azure AD, but I can publish an app and just push in some permissions to the app, and it actually can do those things. So for example, if this was some kind of a malicious app, it could just export all your mails and start, for example, some kind of a business email compromise attack. Then after that, then you have been reading a lot of information of your organization. And this is happening. I wouldn't say that when you are taking something from Teams app catalog, probably those are also already verified, maybe certified, but let's look at those things in next slides. But why those apps should be governed? I would say that first is the security and privacy. App will always get the user's identity, because if it does a single sign-on, it needs to know something about the user. Quite commonly, it's the name and email, not so heavy information. Next are the app permissions, and then it gets tricky because there's a lot of permissions. For example, on Microsoft Graph, I've seen a presentation explaining those all. It's something like 4 fully filled slides about those permissions. So different levels. Can you read? Can you write? Can you access some things? Team members, files, channels, tasks, whatever it is. The app can actually require those permissions as it needs to do kind of process those tasks. Then the saved information. So what app is actually storing and how it's stored. Can you actually ask them to remove, and what is the data location? At least in EU, we need to take care of the GDPR, that what kind of personal information is stored and where. And probably some app providers are not hosting, for example, their data physically inside of, for example, European borders. So their kind of business model might be that they are, for example, supporting users inside of US, for example. So something to consider as well. And of course, the personal information handling, how it's handled, what is stored, is there retention, how you can remove your own personal data from the app or from the app storage. Another part is the usage rights and licensing. So how is the app monetized? Do you need a license for using that app? It's quite common that you can actually it's a freemium app, so you can use it for like 60 days, and then you need to get the license or purchase some kind of a subscription. And a problem with that one is that if users start building a process on top of that specific app, they get it working, it's coming something to their normal daily work, and then they need to buy licenses. Who is actually buying those licenses? What are the costs? What is the subscription? Because there are different models. Something is per user per month, like a couple of euros, dollars, or whatever. But they might be something that it's a couple of thousand or something like that in a month, based on the subscription and the monetization model. And of course, terms of use. Users are not reading the terms of use, how you can use it, what you can use it. So something you need to be careful as an admin. Now, if we next talk about a little bit about the Teams app lifecycle, and I will just point out a couple of things here. So, of course, user needs some kind of an app. They probably have an idea, and you probably have the internal app catalog where you can user can install those apps, of course, in Teams, but any other system as well. Or is there, for example, a request process that user can just request an app from the admin? That is also possible in Teams, that you can have a request process. And when the app is requested, who is actually approving it? Also, you should consider that is there an alternative? For example, if you are requesting a Trello, could you use Planner or Microsoft To Do? So using those already available apps first, and then maybe deploying more if there is value. And of course, considering the licensing. And I would say this is the first important step is the evaluation. So seeing the privacy, security, legal things. Also, you can use Microsoft 365 certified apps, see that what is actually how are the compliance and security things measured in the certification way. I have actually some little things about the certification on the next slide. And then, of course, are you using, for example, something third-party app, or is it a custom app, for example, provided by a partner outside of the Teams app catalog? Then the deployment, well, is it just that users can self-service install, or is it something that you want to install to all of your users or some group of users automatically? So, for example, Adobe PDF is something that you can in the future install silently, and it will be available for all of your users without them having any notice before they use it for the first time. But then the important part is this. I would say that this is something app is deployed and after that nothing happens. So you need to somehow manage it, manage the updates. If something majorly changes in the app, so you need to notify your users maybe that, hey, there is going to be a huge change on this app, and for example, is there any something you need to do before the app upgrade is actually deployed, because that might happen even automatically, you don't even know it. Then I would say the monitoring, at least time to time, to check that which apps are actually actively in use, and if you are using licensed apps, that is even more important, because they are bringing costs all the time, and if users are not really using those, so they are kind of a useless costs then. And then the end of life, and when your users are actually stopping the usage of the app, what happens then? At least removing access to the app, but also removing the permissions from that app, so it cannot contact, for example, your environment via Graph API or something. So really need to take care of that end of life as well. And probably you need some kind of a process, people who are responsible for running the process, approvals, whatever your kind of a policy for Teams apps is. Certification. So Microsoft 365 certification. This is not just for Teams apps. This is all the apps, for example, on SharePoint, Outlook. What is actually coming from the Microsoft ecosystem from different stores or app catalogs. So it's a two-phase process. First phase, of course, is more of a organization who is providing the app is just kind of doing the self-assessment based on the questionnaire and publishes the information about the app to Microsoft Learn. So it's in a one place and consistent, easy to read format in the same. So you can use Microsoft Learn and see all the attestation phased apps there as well. And then comes the certification. So then it's audited based on industry standard frameworks. And of course, app provider needs to provide also some evidence and demonstrate that they are really having those security measures in the app, but also the processes, for example, the privacy controls and how they are handling the personal information. And of course, when it's certified, you can see the certifications it fills and what are the documentation available on Learn, but you can also see them on Microsoft Teams App Store as well. So here the small icon about that this is Adobe Acrobat, for example, is Microsoft 365 certified already. Okay, but let's see these things and now jump into app governance through demos. So I will jump back to my Teams environment. And now I'm on the Teams Admin Center. Maybe I just click Control+. Come on. Control+, so it will be a little bit bigger. Okay, so apps. So I'm open the Teams app section and manage apps. So this is the app catalog management interface for the admins. And as you can see, there are already close to 2,000 apps there. This is not actually a number for the third-party apps. I think I have something like half a dozen custom apps there. They are also visible in this list. But as you can see, a lot of apps here. Some of it are already Microsoft 365 certified, their publisher attestation, so they have been doing the self-assessment. But there is also a lot of apps which doesn't actually have anything here. They are not in the process, or they are just starting or just published. But if you look at the Adobe Acrobat, for example, I will open the app. There's a description. You can see all the legal and privacy documents, what is needed. Also, you can see domains, what it requires, or something like that. So there's a lot of information, and these have been improving in the last few months. So there have been a lot of things added to this as well. You can see the permissions. If there is a granular permissions, you can see them right here. But if you want to see what permissions this app really requires, you can of course see the documentation, but there is also you can review the permissions as an admin if you're a global admin. So I can just go here and review it. So it maintains access to data it has access to. Sign in, read all files user have access already. So you can see that this Adobe Acrobat application is reading all files that user has access and have also full access to those files. So basically, if these permissions would be some kind of malicious app, it probably reads all your files and probably can even encrypt something. And read the names and description of teams. So it has a lot of permissions. Let's not click accept, I will just cancel it. So it doesn't do anything. That is the way to check the permissions. You can check the permissions on documentation. When you have installed the app, you can check the permissions on Azure AD as well if needed. Settings, there isn't any specific app settings you need to check, but this is the certification part. And of course, it's blank. Okay, something happening in the Teams admin center that I cannot see the permissions. But basically, it shows based on different standards that what are the security and compliance requirement, or what security and compliance standards it will fill and what parts of those. So it will be a huge list of things, and there will be like ISO 27001 and for example HIPAA and whatever they have been seeing that they need to fulfill there. And then the plans and pricing you can see, and even purchase some subscriptions via Teams Admin Center. But Adobe Acrobat, there is a separate purchase mechanism for that. Let's see it quickly. No, let's go forward. Okay, and if you go forward, so of course you can disable all your apps in the app catalog and set is that all the apps are blocked by default, but it's a tenant-wide setting, so you cannot add any kind of a exception for that. And my suggestion is the better way to do is with permission policies. I have a couple of permission policies. Global one is the default, where every user is by default, and then you can create more permission groups and start managing or adding users to those. So different policies can have different kind of settings. So you can, for example, have a pilot group for testing your apps. But let's go see what is here. I have already made some changes. So I'm allowing all Microsoft apps. So everything what Microsoft is now publishing will be allowed. Of course, you can control that with whitelisting or blacklisting. I would say whitelisting is the way to go here. And for third-party apps, I have already created a whitelist. So I'm allowing specific apps and blocking all others. So these are the apps what I have now approved for my users. So these are the apps users can install themselves, or I can install to the users, and they can access the app as well. And same for the custom apps if I have something uploaded as custom app. And for the pilot group, for example, I could do that. I'm allowing all third-party apps, and it's just a smaller group of people. And you can make it as granular as you want, creating new permission policy. So permission policy controls what applications users can access. Then there is a setup policy, which is more about that what users can see and how you can install those applications. So again, going to the global policy, actually, let's go back. There's a couple of these policy groups already created, but these are automatically created by Microsoft. So you don't need to mind about these. I can choose here that can you upload the custom apps? So can you upload a custom app for themselves? I suggest keeping these off because they might upload something malicious and approve it. Can user pin apps? I would keep this on, that user actually pin those apps to the left rail. Then the installed apps. So I have many install these apps automatically to users to teams. They are not visible anywhere, but user don't need to do any kind of an installation process. For example, this Adobe Acrobat is now installed to everyone automatically. Same as Poly, same as Icebreaker. So those apps will appear automatically. But once you install these apps, this is not a silent install. Silent install mechanism is I think it's rolling out. It should be coming in this spring. These applications which are installed in this way, they might notify the user that, hey, I'm here. For example, Poly, when you are installing it to your users, it will greet the user as a bot that, hey, I'm Poly, and you can do things like what things you can do with the Poly bot. Same as Icebreaker. I think Adobe Acrobat will also tell that. And the pinned app side, this is the mechanism you can personalize teams. So for example, I have been adding the intranet app as on the top of the left rail navigation on Teams. So I can see it, let's see. So there is the intranet custom app. This is actually Viva Connections. I have been just adding Viva Connections app and map it to my home site. So this is the way to control what is available in this left rail. Of course, you might notice that left rail is not so long, so don't push everything there. And it's good way also to personalize and create those policies, for example, for field users or mobile users. And when you are start actually whitelisting the apps or blocking the apps and whitelisting, how you can know what is actually in use. So analytics and reports section, there's the usage reports, and you can get the report about app usage. Of course, this is not so detailed, but for example, 90 days, let's see what happens. This is a demo environment, so there's not so much usage, but as you can see, Sign Easy, someone have been using it some time, but for example, in this 90-day period, teams, any team or any user haven't been using this app. SpaceMe, I don't know what it is, one user. Of course, there is those Microsoft apps, Adobe Acrobat, 2 teams, 1 user, Bigger Brains e-learning. So you can see all the apps which are available on your environment or have been somehow deployed by the user to user's personal app or to teams. And you can see a little bit details at Mac usage, mobile, web. But of course, you don't really know what team it is, what user it is. So this is kind of a guideline that probably you need to enable some of these apps to whitelist and maybe come back again after a couple of months and see that are these apps really in use. Because if you see that the statistics are 0, then you can probably tell that those apps are not anymore in use and you can block those. And well, if the user accesses the app after that, they will just get a notification that, hey, this app is not in use anymore. But just to remind, permission policies control what apps are available, whitelist those third-party apps. You can also whitelist Microsoft apps, set up policies, personalize the experience at what apps are installed. Are those available on the left rail navigation? Just quickly to go through the request process, I will just show it quickly. The request process, how it works. So I'm back as an Antero, and I would like to see, let's pick something. Sci report. Okay, I think this is a good app for me. So I can go and do an app request as a user. It will go to the admin as well. And one improvement here is that I will just request it, is that you can actually link it to somewhere. I will just link it to the Microsoft Forms form, but it can be anything like your ticketing system form or something like that. So you can gather more information and get a notification for the app request as well, because at the moment you cannot get the request automatically to anyone. So basically you need to go here and see what apps are actually requested. So there is a requests by user column, and you can just sort it the right way. And as you can see, sidetrack is there now because Antero requested it. And I can just, I hate the UI here, but come on. Go to the app and manage request. And here I can actually see that what I need to do. So you cannot just click approve here because you're using the permission policy. So you need to change the permission policies as well. But this is the way to get some more information about the requested apps as well. Good. Moving back to slides. So some key takeaways. Of course, I would say that Teams is a platform for work. So make it as a platform for work. And that, of course, needs that you need to educate and inform the users that, hey, these apps can be used via Teams. Also, I think users need also some encouragement that you can use those apps inside Teams. You don't need to go to a browser and find it. You can actually use Teams for those, but you need to somehow publish those, and it's more of a communications to your users. Governing apps is really important. So create a process for app governing. Think about those setup and permission policies. How you are going to pilot new apps. Is there a pilot group? And what is the request process? Also, don't forget the monitoring part. So monitor those apps. What are used? Is there some third-party apps which are not anymore in use and probably have some licensing? And then the deployment part is important as well, how you are deploying those apps. So is it per user install? Are you installing those automatically? Maybe bringing those to the left rail. When you have different roles, personalization is also important because, for example, field worker might require, for example, a chat, shifts, as less apps as possible, and maybe they don't even use files as such. They're using files, for example, linked to the chat or channels, and mobile users as well. What you want to be available automatically for mobile users, and if even desktop users, if there's different roles, for example, someone is heavily working with collaborating with externals, they probably work on a different tenants, and they don't need to have, for example, line of business apps there so much. So, but personalize as well, so users can find those apps. If you're using Viva Communications, Insights, Viva Engage, bring those to the left rail, so those will be easily accessible and information will be available for your users. And the last part, I would say that when you are building something new, you are in the Microsoft ecosystem, you're using Azure AD for authentication, require that all customized applications support Azure AD SSO, because then you can control the identity, have conditional access policies and everything, and make sure that those apps are also Teams aware, that they know what is Teams, what is the context, how the Teams SSO works. So you can also bring those custom apps, for example, as tabs in Teams, and they automatically sign the user in. So again, they are not falling anywhere else. They don't need to open the browser, because Teams apps quite commonly is a web application. So you can run it any environment, but it should support SSO and also be at some level of Teams aware. And for developer, that's few hours from the examples, and they know how to do it. So it's not even difficult. I would like to close to this slide. Of course, I like technology, but I would say it's an enabler, and we need somehow those collectively agreed practices and use those practices every day to actually get more value out of that technology. For example, in Teams, when we know how we are working where the data is, how people can communicate with each other, where are the common information. We need those practices, as with apps as well, that, for example, we are using approvals for this, or this icebreaker is kind of a, you get to know your colleagues, or you can stop it from this link and these kind of things. All right. I think we have 5 minutes for questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matti, for a great presentation. So we will get straight into the questions and answers part now. So again, if you want to ask a question, you feel free to type it into the questions window now. So I have a few questions in here, and the first one is, the permissions that Adobe requests for, should you be concerned about Adobe accessing files which are not PDF also?
I would say that is, of course, you need to think about the risks. Of course, Adobe is already Microsoft 365 certified, so it actually follows security practices and also compliance practices. But of course, that is something that organizations really need to decide, that basically they have access to your files. I would say that those files are used because, of course, that, for example, combining is done in a different service. It's not run inside Teams, so they need to get the files to some of their ecosystem environment, do the operation there and return it back. So I wouldn't be so worried, but of course, it's always the management of risk and what kind of data you can expose it. For example, if you have a research and development, or you're working with healthcare, that might be something that you won't approve it to have access to your files, because there is also considerations about security, data security, and well, yeah, I would say yes, but it depends on the case.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matti. Another question in here, and someone is asking how to identify the new apps that get added to by Microsoft Teams area.
I would say that there isn't any great mechanism for that. One thing is, of course, that you can block all the new apps. So I can actually show that once my slides get out of the way. So basically, you would do this, that org-wide app settings, you block all the, where is the setting? It's in the org-wide. You can actually do this, that when the new third-party apps are published in the store, you can automatically add them as blocked, and you can then use the status field for kind of seeing that which other applications are blocked. I think there isn't any good mechanism. I might be wrong. I haven't checked here. No, there isn't any field for that at the moment. Actually, that is a good feedback. Probably I should post that to Microsoft, that hey, this might be a good idea, that when this app is actually published. Actually, good feedback as well.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Matti. And another viewer is just asking here, how come you can see apps usage in your history that are not allowed on your permission policy?
Those apps have been allowed on some time, because I actually made these permission policies just 2 weeks ago on this demo environment. So if someone have been using that app, for example, a year ago, it's still visible there because it's installed. And when you block the app, it doesn't remove the installation. If you block the app and enable it again, it continues working, because data is also what is available for that app, or what is stored in the app provider side. It's there. It's not deleted. It's just kind of blocks the usage of app in your Teams environment. So that is something you need to take care of as well. When you block an app, probably you should remove the data as well and remove the permissions. So taking care of the application lifecycle in the Teams app as well. But yeah, those are visible. All the apps have been used in the environment, of course, in the reporting phase. So it's 180 days is maximum time frame to see the range, to see what apps have been used.
Okay, thanks, Matti. So another question someone's asking, should we control the newly added apps always blocked? So IT admin can review and roll out based on need as controlled manner.
I would say that I would use permission policies for blocking the apps, but probably as now I'm thinking that how you can see the new apps is that settings as blocked, and of course it stays blocked for the whole tenant. But before adding it to users, some admin review is required. So I wouldn't go kind of start blocking apps from the kind of app catalog. I would use permission policies and whitelist those apps to users. But for newly created apps, probably that might work. But you need, this is a problem of course, you need the process, you need the resources, you need someone to do it, and name that someone, that it's not just someone.
Brilliant, thanks again. So just one more question in here, and someone is asking, is there a difference in permissions when using desktop applications instead of using them in Teams, like for example Adobe?
Not that there should be, because both are web apps. Actually, Adobe it's a web application which is just loaded inside of Teams. So third-party apps, I would say the permissions are the same in both environments. I haven't at least seen any difference there. So basically, I can use Adobe on a browser as well, because it's a web application which is just loaded inside of the Teams window. So it's nothing special. It's not running on top of Teams client. There's some considerations if the app provider hadn't correctly created the single sign-on, but I would say that none of those apps in the app catalog are failing for that. So the desktop app would fail somehow on the single sign-on side, but no difference between permissions.
And so that is all the questions that we have today. So I might just wrap up the questions and answers session now. And Matti, just on behalf of the ESPC community, we would like to extend a huge thank you to you again for taking the time to carry out this webinar today. We really do appreciate it.
All right, thank you. This was fun, as always. And
brilliant. So that is the end of today's webinar. And you can find this webinar and more at sharepointeurope.com/resource center, and we will notify you all by email when the recording is available. So that is it for today, folks. Thanks again to all of you for joining us today. Take care, and we hope that you'll join us again for more learning. Bye for now.
all right, thank you. Have a nice day for all.